Campfire Classics is a classic literature podcast. However, your hosts will occasionally use not-so-classy language and immature humor to describe very mature situations. As such, listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Ken Sandberg.
And I'm Heather Michelle Lawler.
Welcome to Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
La-di-da-di-da-di, Maine. Maine is very, very great. La-di-da-di-da-di, rowing the boat down the lakes of Maine.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
Sure. That was a fun song. I liked it.
That was clearly one that, it just came out of my mouth. So you're welcome for that original composition. Eurovision ain't got nothing on me.
All right, so we're less than a minute into the episode, and already you've referenced basically the two biggest events of the last 48 hours for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't plan anything, but I'm like, well, what's on my mind?
This is what I'm thinking.
The trip to Maine that Ken and I did to go look at wedding venues. And we just watched the first semifinal of Eurovision. So that is exactly where my mind is.
Yeah, fitting, appropriate.
Yeah, and Maine is beautiful. So if you haven't been, you should probably go. Go
to Vacation Land, USA.
Or make sure you're really good friends with us so you get invited to the wedding.
But yeah. By about 8 months from now, you want to be
more than
tight.
that. More than that. We're going to send out invitations before that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it depends on what date we pick, I guess. But yeah, if you want to, start sending us bribes, literally every person we met was like, I can tell this wedding's going to be cool. Yeah. Including our waitress at the restaurant we ate at right before we drove back. And they're right. So if you want to be involved, just send a little email, send a little money, send a little wine.
Potential bribes
whiskey.
Include cash, alcohol, flowers, just telling me I'm pretty.
Yeah, just tell us we're pretty. I mean, we're simple folk.
What do the simple folk
You know
do?
what I did, and we haven't really talked about this, but I did notice at every venue that everyone was so apologetic because in Maine, they're just starting to open. Right now, this is prime time wedding for where in the southern states, April, May.
Right.
Maine is a little bit later because, their seasons are not as long.
And further north, it just takes them longer to warm up.
Yeah. So their prime wedding season is literally Memorial Day on till the beginning of October. So they're still and they were so apologetic and most of them were doing construction. Most of them were doing some sort of updating. That's the word. Updoing is a hair thing. But
there were a couple updos as well.
Yeah, but they were so apologetic, and they were so and then they were just so apologetic. And what I realized is, and I said to a few of them, I'm like, we're very low maintenance, but I'm guessing most of the people they deal with, well, not most, I'm guessing a lot of the people they deal with are a little high maintenance, the whole term of bridezilla and stuff.
Yeah.
People that can't visualize something if it's not right in front of them kind of thing, whereas I like an empty space. I like to be able to go, oh, I can make something out of this, but we're artists.
Yeah.
And we're also very low maintenance.
Yes. Although to a certain extent, as we were going through, I kind of understand the response to
I understood.
I want it. No, to the response of some people who are like, no, I want it the way I want it. I want to see it the way it's going to be, because for as much money as you're spending on this stuff, you don't want to gamble on anything that is going to be less than what you want.
Absolutely. And if they're literally in the middle of building an entire house or something that you're going to house people in, you better put in your contract that if that's not done, that you get a huge kickback and there's a solution. But for the most part, except for one of the venues, they were just doing minor things.
Yeah, a lot of it was cleanup from the recent storm.
They had a storm in April, a big snowstorm, and then a lot of them are adding nicer, newer bathrooms that will be done in a month. But So, but it was a really fun trip. I just dig Maine. We went to a really amazing taco place, Taco Escobar, that one of the people that showed us one of the venues recommended. We actually went on May the 4th, be with you, instead of Cinco de Mayo because we're smart like that.
Yeah.
And had the spiciest, what do we call it? Sweet? Spicy.
It was a spicy margarita.
It was sweet and spicy. It was peach habanero. And the waiter literally warned me not order it, but was like, I'm just going to tell you this ain't your like run-of-the-mill jalapeno margarita. And he was right. So I ordered the strawberry jalapeno first, which was not spicy at all, at least to me.
It was Kool-Aid.
It tasted delicious, but I drank it like Kool-Aid. Ken got like the El Jefe, like the fancy one. Like really bougie one, which was delicious. But then I went, you know what? Now I got some food in my belly, delicious food. I'm going to do the peach habanero. And I'm not going to lie, like my tongue was on fire by the end, but it was like the right kind of spicy. And then Ken ordered one. So it was like, yeah. Swicy.
Swicy. Sweet and spicy, spicy.
Which I kind of want to get going in the world. Swicy.
Welcome to Campfire Classic's swiciest episode ever.
Yes, it's a swicy kind of day, y'all.
Might be.
In the lusty month of May. It's a swicy kind of day in the lusty month of May.
Speaking of it being May, listeners, about the time we are wrapping the recording of this episode, it will be 8 o'clock on Tuesday, May 7th, which is the time that we requested you send your consciousness with a little hello to the Cup Noodles in Times Square. So as you're listening to this, I hope you did that. I will be checking the news tonight to see if anything happened.
If anybody astral projected into the Cup of Noodles.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, if enough people do it at the same time, you could actually create a little disturbance.
Well, then we better do it.
Oh, yeah. Right about the time we're wrapping this up. We'll sign off and then focus our energy.
I'm going to go hold that demon sword and...
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully we'll get a report that Cup of Noodles lit up with a rainbow, happiness, joyful... Yeah, send joyful thoughts. I don't want anything bad to happen.
No, yeah. No,
we want happy things.
Happy things, or just like a penis.
A giant dick going into the Cup of Noodles. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That seems pretty on brand for Times Square. I mean, those freaky, deaky Elmos and shit. Like, there should be a dick coming out of the Cup of Noodles.
Yeah.
It feels on brand.
Or going in.
Or going in. It can go in and out. Maybe it's like it's like American Pie.
In and out and in.
It's like American Pie. It's he's not having sex with the apple
what does
pie.
It feel like? Like warm cup of noodles.
Oh, warm, not hot.
No, not hot. Warm. But I'm just saying that I can't imagine that.
It's a little sloshy.
That's not. There's something unusual with that.
That's how it feels with like a 90-year-old porn star, maybe.
Or maybe if you're just way too small.
I don't know.
Anyway,
hi. We're Campfire Classics. We are a
This is
podcast.
a literature podcast, obviously.
Well, and comedy, clearly, because we're talking about dicks going into Cup of Noodles. So who would expect us?
Porn stars.
Who would expect us to be talking about fucking Agatha Christie and shit? So, surprise!
What do we think? Is Cup of Noodles the worst porn name ever?
It's kind of a fun drag name.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Cup of Noodles.
I don't know.
That's a cute
There's something
one.
there. Anyway, yes, this is Campfire Classics, where we read classic books and shit.
Hi.
Because everybody shits.
I hope they do. If not, you should take some Metamucil.
We read short stories that we have pulled from the depths of America's public domain.
Not even America's, like the world's.
Well, yes, but they are public domain in America.
The rules in America.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we're an American podcast, and if we follow Australia's rules, we could actually get in a lot of trouble because they're way more lenient about that than America is.
America.
Fuck yeah. So yes, we pull these things from the obscurity of public domain and we present them to you heavily edited because we make fun of them.
Well, not heavily edited, just, edited so you don't hear all the times we fuck up or say the word.
Well, and more to the point. And more to the point, I mean heavily edited as in commented on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not presented.
This is not an audiobook, y'all.
It is never a single clean take.
This ain't an audiobook.
If that's what you're here for,
you came to the wrong place.
May I recommend Sandman stories?
They will make you sleepy.
They will make you sleepy, but at least they just read you the damn story.
They just read you the story. But we are here for the ride. Are you ready to ride with us?
I want to rock.
Rock.
I want to read.
I want to read, and I get to read today because Ken got me a story
this
today.
Week, I have selected a story for Heather to read. I think it's going to be a fun one. I hope it's going to be a fun one. I really have no fucking clue.
We never know.
Our author sounds interesting. But before we jump into the story, I'm going to read a few fun facts so you can learn something about this week's writer.
Fun facts.
So this week, we've got a new author writing under the pen name Andrew North. This is Alice Mary Norton.
Ooh, another lady with a man's name. Yep. Yes, I love it.
Born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1912, Alice's father owned a rug company.
Yes.
She started writing in high school, writing short stories and for the school paper and things.
Okay.
But in high school, she wrote, among other things, the book that would eventually become her second published novel, Railstone Luck.
All right. But still...
She didn't publish it then.
Okay, but she wrote it then.
As her. She wrote it as herself during high school, and then she later got her first novel published, and then when she was trying to figure out what to write as her second novel, she was like, I already got this one, and so she got that published.
It's like she heard about one-hit wonders, and she's like, if I wait too long, people are going to forget about me, so I got to hit them with the second one now, and I've got just the thing.
Yeah, so she was doing a lot of writing in high school, primarily in the fantasy genre.
Okay.
She went to college, but had to drop out of college when the Great Depression hit too hard for her to continue.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, screwed up a lot of people's lives. She started working as a librarian in the Cleveland library system.
Wait, so this is going to be like a Pulp Fiction.
Maybe. Today's story was first published in a pulp magazine.
Okay, cool.
So she's working as a librarian for the Cleveland library system, where she purchased for the library a copy of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit.
Okay.
A decision which she had to spend significant time justifying to the higher-ups because fantasy at the time was not considered legitimate literature.
It was trash. I mean, that's why pulp magazines existed. It was this subgenre that's kind of like the way people used to be comic books are lower grade, but now look at how big comic books and graphic novels have become. They're
absolutely
legit. Yeah. That's hilarious.
So because
she's like, trust me, guys, this is going to be a big one.
This is worth it, I promise.
They're like, women.
I'll tell you, man, the late fees we are going to collect from this book, you will not believe.
So long.
So because she was writing and working mostly in fantasy and a bit in science fiction, she adopted the pen name Andre Norton to publish her first book.
Okay.
She legally changed her name to Andre Alice Norton in 1934.
Ooh, we got a name change, a legal name change. That's wild.
And she did that because she was working in fantasy, and the target demographic for fantasy novels was all young men. Who primarily didn't trust that women could write in the genre.
Yep.
Still a bit of a problem, but things are getting better.
Let's keep it going, y'all.
Slowly. In 1940, she started working for the Library of Congress.
Okay.
In D.C.
I was going to say, she went from Cleveland to D.C., clearly. Yeah.
On a special project related to alien citizenship.
Like immigrant citizenship.
Well, I assume, but she was writing sci-fi.
I think she applied for the job misunderstanding that's like what it was.
I hate it when it's the wrong kind of alien.
She's like, alien citizenship. I'll definitely get a couple novels out of this. She gets there and she's like, Irish people coming into oh man.
I wanted to get beamed up and instead I got a plate of latkes.
It's okay. It got me out of Ohio because no one wants to live in Ohio, including all the astronauts.
She grew up in Ohio and started writing sci-fi. Women couldn't be astronauts, so she did the next best thing.
Yep. And then she got out of Ohio anyway.
Yep. So anyway, she's working on this project, but then World War II hit, xenophobia took over, and the program was scrapped.
Oh, man. I hate xenophobia.
Yeah.
Can we fucking stop it, y'all?
From 1941 to 1950, she owned and operated a bookstore.
Oh, I love that. She went from librarian to like, I have my... Well, that's what Marion the librarian wanted to do in Music Man, because her dad, her father, her husband, who owned all the books? It's in the song. The guy that was in love with her. It was some.
He left River City, the old man.
Yeah. All of the books were hers.
But he left all the books to her. Yeah, but it's his name's on everything. What's the old man's name?
Oh my God! Wow, I've done this show and I've seen that movie only like 100 times. I don't know. I just put that together. But yeah, she's like, she got the dream because Marion just wanted to run her own little bookshop. But she was like, okay, I'll keep them in the library so everyone can access them. But these people fucking suck and they come to my library and dance around like idiots. Balzac.
Old Miser Madison.
Miser Madison. That's right. And everyone was like, oh, she's sleeping with the old man. And that wasn't happening. He just loved her because she loved to read.
Yep.
And so he left her all the books. Yeah. But anyway, that sounds like Alice's journey here.
So Alice found herself her own Miser Madison and she got a bookstore.
Got a bookstore.
Eventually, her health started getting kind of funky, and she decided to retire from running the bookstore. She moved back to Cleveland, had a couple more jobs, and in 1958, at 46 years old, she decided to become a full-time professional writer. She'd been working as a librarian and a bookstore owner. And writing on the side.
Okay.
So her first couple of novels, she'd published some short stories.
But they were fun.
It had been stuff she was doing for her. She was not getting a ton of acclaim for this. She wasn't making much money doing it. She was a librarian and a bookstore owner.
And apparently worked for alien immigration.
Worked for alien immigration. She was a founding member of MIB. But no, so she's 46 years old and she's like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. This is what I've wanted to do all along. I'm going to fucking follow my dream.
Queen, I hear you.
So she goes on to become one of the most prolific and successful fantasy and science fiction writers of all time.
Of course she does.
She spent more than 70 years writing altogether, almost 50 of it after she finally becomes professional, but like 20 of it was amateur writing. And then she's 70 years total, publishing more than 300 titles, including 12 sci-fi and fantasy series. She was nominated for 2 Hugo Awards, 3 World Fantasy Awards, winning a Lifetime Achievement Award in 1998. She is known as the Grand Dame of science fiction and fantasy.
Yes,
she
ma'am.
was the first woman to receive the Gandalf Grand Master of Fantasy Award.
There's a Gandalf Grand Master?
Yep.
Yes.
To be the science fiction...
Oh, I love that because she was the one that wanted Lord of the Rings on the shelf, and Gandalf is a character.
Yep.
I love that. That's such a Hallmark moment.
It's great. She was the first woman to get that. She was the first woman to be Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association Grand Master.
Okay.
She was the first woman to be inducted by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame. And she was invited to play Dungeons & Dragons by Gary Gygax, creator of Dungeons & Dragons.
He probably grew up reading her work, and that inspired probably some of the world of D&D. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a badass.
So she died at 93 years old on March 17th, 2005. 2 weeks later, on April 1st, her final novel was published and released, meaning she was writing up to the very end.
The end. That's amazing.
There are plenty of other details that we could dig into, but I figure we're probably going to come back to her because she's got a ton of stuff. So I'm going to leave it there for now.
Cool.
Today you will be reading a story first published in 1953. It has lapsed into public domain. I have done extensive research into this. And this story is called All Cats Are Gray.
Oh, meow, meow.
Let's start this fire.
All Cats Are Gray by Andrew North, or Alice Mary Norton. Under normal conditions, a whole person has a decided advantage over a handicapped one, but out in deep space, the normal may be reversed. For humans, at any rate.
That's the sort of...
It's like the prequel.
That's the teaser tagger thingy.
It's like, in a lot of the pulp stories, there's like a little thing at the beginning. It's like, this is what we might be talking about.
So that is the pulp magazine equivalent to Tonight on The Walking Dead.
Yeah. It's like, so here on Earth, people think people with disabilities or different abilities are
at a disadvantage.
Are at a disadvantage in society, but apparently in space, that might be the other way around. All right, here we go. Stina of the Spaceways. That sounds just like a corny title for one of the stellar veto spreads. I ought to know. I've tried my hand at writing enough of them. I love the self-deprecation. It's great. Only this Stina was no glamour babe. She was as colorless as a lunar planet. Even the hair netted down to her skull had a sort of grayish cast, and I never saw her but once draped in anything but a shapeless and baggy gray spaceall.
Huh. All right. So Stina is Grisabella.
Yeah. All cats are gray. Mm-hmm. Memory. And she goes to the Heaviside Layer up in space, and all her disabilities fly away. So they say. Now I know where Andrew Lloyd Webber stole that story from. All right.
Wasn't just, what is it? Old Pussum's Book of Curious
T.S.
Cats.
Eliot. T.S. Eliot. Stina was strictly background stuff, and that is where she spent most of her free hours. In the smelly, smoky background corners of any stellar port dive frequented by free spacers. If you really looked for her, you could spot her, just sitting there listening to the talk, listening and remembering. She didn't open her own mouth often, but when she did, spacers had learned to listen, and the lucky few who had heard her rare spoken words, these will never forget Stina.
She's Silent Bob.
Silent but deadly. Oh yeah,
she's Silent Bob.
Silent Bob from if people are most of our listeners should know who that is, but Kevin Smith movies, yeah. Like Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob, and he only speaks like once in every movie.
He gets one line in every movie,
and it's the most. It sums up the moral of the whole story, kind of thing. So she just chills in the back of these bars. Now all I'm hearing, because May the 4th just happened, is that Cantina song from Star Wars. And she's just sitting in the back like, these fucking weirdos, man. She's thinking, listening. Oh, not Han Solo. God, this guy's a dick.
Man, I hate jizz.
What?
Canonically, jizz is the name for that style of music.
I know. You told me that the other day, and I cannot, process it.
Space jazz. It's
Space jazz. All right, so Stina's sitting in this bar listening to jizz. Great.
Listening to the musicians jizz all over the stage.
And that's why she's not talking. She's like, I'm just going to watch this disaster. She drifted from port to port. Being an expert operator on the big calculators, she found jobs wherever she cared to stay for a time. And she came to be something like the master-minded machines she tended. Smooth, gray, without much personality of her own. That's what they all think until, like, she clearly has a huge personality. It's just reserved for very special people.
And then she got weird.
Like a cat.
Like a cat.
Like people think cats are assholes and have they don't care and stuff. But if you got to work for a cat's affection. Yeah, like that. I love that. But it was Stina who told Bub Nelson about the Jova Moonrights. Fucking Bub Nelson.
Yeah. Thank God somebody told Bub about the Jovan Moonrights.
I mean,
because he was about to screw some shit up.
As long as they weren't the Jehovah Witness Moonrights.
I don't know. I mean,
maybe they are.
Maybe they are. Maybe that. I don't know what year this is supposed to be. Maybe the Jehovah's Witness take over the moon and they become the Jovans.
They're like, we'd love to tell you about our Lord Jesus Christ and the moon lords.
I mean, Moon Jesus.
Moon Jesus. It was Stina who told Bub Nelson about the Jovan Moonrights, and her warning saved Bub's life 6 months later. Well, there you go. It was Stina who identified the piece of stone Keen Clark was passing around the table one night, rightly calling it unworked steltite. That started a rush, which made 10 fortunes overnight for men who were down to their last jets. And last of all, she cracked the case of the Empress of Mars.
So Stina is Grisabella working her night gig as Hercule Poirot.
Yeah, I was going to say, she sits there and observes and only speaks when she's going to, like, affect someone's life.
Yeah.
Usually it seems for the good. Like, she's like, you're going to die if you don't know this. You're going to profit if you know this. And apparently she's now cracked the case of the Empress of Mars. That's hot. Well, probably is because Mars, it's pretty warm, if I'm remembering correctly. Or is it really cold?
No, it's cold.
It's just red.
It's red. It looks hot. It's actually cold.
It looks like it should be a desert, but it's like a desert that has fallen into eternal night.
The way Antarctica is a desert.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Antarctica ain't red.
No. Although if you murder enough people, it would be.
Well, humans are working on that, I think, with animals, but we won't go there.
All right, so I am now picturing as Stina, Betty Buckley in something similar to her Grisabella outfit,
just like sitting in the back corner, like.
But playing Miss Marple.
So can we just go with Angela Lansbury's playing this character?
Sure. Once again, for what I can't believe is the first time, this is Campfire Classics starring Angela Lansbury.
I mean, may she rest, but damn, that bitch was it. All right. All the boys who had profited by her queer store of knowledge and her photographic memory tried...
So she's also a gay icon.
Yes, so like Angela Lansbury and Betty Buckley, for that matter. Pretty much anyone who's played Grisabella. She has a queer store in space, so she's just selling her pride flags and like suspenders for the parade.
Please. Space Pride.
Space Pride. All the boys who had profited by her queer store of knowledge and her photographic memory tried at one time or another to balance the scales, but she wouldn't take so much as a cup of canal water at their expense, let alone the credits they tried to push on her. So she's humble as fuck, too.
She won't take money.
Bub Nelson was the only one who got around her refusal. It was he who brought her Bat. Who's Bat?
It's Bartok, the Bat.
I kick her, sir. So Hank Azaria is now in this play. Okay, cool. I'm guessing Bat is the cat.
Probably.
That's a stupid name for a cat.
Hello, this is my cat, Bat.
This is my cat, Bat. No, then we turn into like a whole who's on first thing.
This is my dog, Frog. This is Frog the dog.
This is my snake, Cake.
Wait, what?
Eat it. Eat it. Eat it.
You want me to... Wait. You want me to
I'm sorry.
eat your snake?
I'm sorry. That's my cake snake.
Or is it a snake cake?
Bite it and find out what happens.
I'm out. You can keep your life-saving advice. Get bent.
Get bent. All right, so who's Bat? About a year after the Jovan affair, he walked into the free fall one night and dumped Bat down on her table. Bat looked at Stina and growled. She looked calmly back at him and nodded once. From then on, they traveled. Okay, so Stina's a witch.
Yeah.
And this is her familiar.
Yeah. Hey.
Awesome.
Hey, there is finally an in-universe excuse for me editing out the word.
Why?
Because there's a cat in the story who's meowing.
I was right there right before you said it. Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, meow. Okay, so Bat is a cat. So we are right there. Okay.
Bat's a cat.
And we now have a witch, a prophesizing witch. I mean, really.
She's telling the future, too.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a space witch story.
Space witch and her familiar. From then on, they traveled together, the thin gray woman and the big gray tomcat. Bat learned to know the inside of more stellar bars than even most spacers visit in their lifetimes. He developed a liking for Vernal juice, drank it neat and quick, right out of the glass. Oh, good. It's a fucking whiskey-drinking cat.
Yeah, all right.
This is the coolest cat ever. I'm sorry, Bat the cat. Bat the cat. I want him to have a theme song. And he was always at home on any table where Stina elected to drop him.
Bat the cat. Bat the cat. Bat the cat knows where it's at.
Yeah, I like that. This is really the story of Stina, Bat, Cliff Moron. I know it's Moran, but I had to say Cliff Moron.
Cliff Moron.
Cliff Moron.
Bat the cat. Bat and morons where it's at.
So this is really the story of Stina, Bat, Cliff Moran, and the Empress of Mars. A story which is already a legend of the spaceways. And it's a damn good story, too. I ought to know, having framed the version of it myself. I love that Andrew or Alice is like going, this is going to be fucking good because I wrote it down. It's amazing. Even though, like, they're not necessarily the narrator, but clearly they kind of are.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
This is...
It's amazing. I love it.
This is third-person omniscient narrator, but first-person POV,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
It's super
I love it.
Inception-y. I love it. For I was there, right in the Rigel Royal, when it all began on the night that Cliff Moran blew in, looking lower than an Ant-Man's belly and twice as nasty. Wow. Paul Rudd in imagery coming in. So Paul Rudd's
Paul Rudd's belly does not hang very low.
Not in
and
that movie.
Let's be honest, it is not nasty.
No, it is not nasty. That man is a vampire. We all agree, right? Okay, cool. I mean, it's nasty as in, that's nasty. He'd had a spell of luck foul enough to twist a man into a slug snake. And we all knew that...
This is Bug Cake, the slug snake.
Bug Cake, the slug snake. Hey. He'd had... I feel like we're speaking a whole new language of Cockney here. Because Cockney's all about the rhyming shit.
That's my pet bat. You have a pet bat? No, I have a pet cat. I thought you said that's your pet bat. Yeah, it's my pet. His name's Bat. You have a pet bat? No, it's a cat.
Bat the cat. And then my slug... My bug cake called Slug Snake. Whatever. Okay. He'd had a spell of luck foul enough to twist a man into a slug snake, and we all knew that there was an attachment out for his ship.
That must be like an APB.
Yeah.
Like he's a warrant.
Yeah, like the police are looking for him. Cliff had fought his way up from the back courts of Venaport. Lose his ship, and he'd slip back there to rot. He was at the snarling stage that night when he picked out a table for himself and set out to drink away his troubles.
We've all been there.
Yep, we've all been there. It never works out. This is probably going to exacerbate.
You're gonna do what?
He's going to drink away his troubles and exacerbate all over the place.
Dude, you can't do that in public.
We don't know what the rules are in space. I thought this was jizz music. He's just adding to the jizz music. Do you like that callback? I'm pretty proud of that.
I believe exacerbate.
Exacerbate. There it is. Anyway. I like exacerbate.
Exhausted masturbating. Exacerbate.
We've all been there, I think.
Just, I can't fall asleep.
Sleep. I hope you add in some of the Star Wars music.
Oh, I absolutely will not. We are so close to committing a crime.
10 seconds. You get 10 seconds of music. You get 10 seconds before it's copyright.
I think the way we're doing it might maybe scooch into parody.
It's parody. It's definitely parody. All right, so Cliff is sitting down and drinking his troubles away. However, just as the first bottle arrived, so did a visitor. Stina came out of her corner, bat curled around her shoulders, stole-wise, his favorite mode of travel. She crossed over and dropped down without an invitation at Cliff's side. That shook him out of his sulks, because Stina never chose company when she could be alone. If one of the manstones of Ganymede had come stumping in, it wouldn't have made more of us look out of the corner of our eyes. So, the fact that she just did that?
That's wild.
That's like, something's up. She stretched out one long-fingered hand and set aside the bottle he had ordered and said only one thing. It's about time for the Empress of Mars to appear again. Cliff scowled and bit his lip. He was tough at jetlining. You have to be granite inside and out to struggle up from Venaport to a ship command. But we could guess what was running through his mind at that moment. The Empress of Mars was just about the biggest prize a spacer could aim for. But in the 50 years she had been following her queer derelict orbit through space, many men had tried to bring her in, and none had succeeded. Ooh, a pleasure ship carrying untold wealth. So it's a strip club ship.
It's a queer pleasure ship?
It's a queer pleasure ship.
It's Space Fire Island.
It's Fire Island, the Empress of Mars is just Fire Island in space. Fucking love it.
Does that make... Wait. Oh, so the Empress of Mars is a ship.
Yes. It's not a person.
Not a person.
I don't think. And there might be we don't know who's flying it. Maybe that's their nickname. But like, it sounds like the Empress of Mars is a ship. Because no one's ever brought her in. They're calling her a ship, as in, like, ships are women. A pleasure ship carrying untold wealth, she had been mysteriously abandoned in space by passengers and crew. No, it's a pirate ship! Oh! The Empress of Mars is a fucking abandoned ghost pirate ship full of treasure.
So we're looking for Space Davy Jones's sunken treasure.
Yeah. Oh, this just turned into my favorite story. We got a fucking witch with a cat.
And space pirates.
Going after treasure. What the fuck? This is awesome. A pleasure ship carrying untold wealth, she had been mysteriously abandoned in space by passengers and crew, none of who had ever been seen or heard of again. It's because they're still on the ship. There it goes. And ghosts.
Or they just decide to join the queer pleasure ship orgy.
I mean, they abandoned the queer pleasure ship orgy.
Right, but everyone who goes looking for it is never seen again.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
I'm
the crew also abandoned it and was never seen. Yeah. So, yeah, I think
so far as we know,
they're all still on that ship.
it could just be a
Absolutely.
space ghost orgy for the last 30 years.
That sounds like a
50
great
years.
time. Great time. The Empress of Mars. At intervals thereafter, she had been sighted, even boarded. Those who ventured into her... It is a pleasure ship.
Mm-hmm.
Those who ventured into her either vanished or returned swiftly without any believable explanation of what they had seen, wanting only to get away from her as quickly as possible.
So it is some debaucherous shit going on.
Something nasty inside there. But the man who could bring her in, or even strip her clean in space, that man would win the jackpot. There's so much innuendo in the story, it's amazing.
You can't just go around stripping her out in space.
No wonder she's gonna, beat you down. Ask permission, consent, please. Yeah, maybe they need to ask before they enter her. That would be nice.
This is why women choose the space bear.
This is why we choose the space bear. All right, Cliff slammed his fist down on the table. I'll try even that. Stina looked at him, much as she must have looked at Bat the day Bub Nelson brought him to her, and nodded. That was all I saw. The rest of the story came to me in pieces, months later, and in another port, half the system away. Cliff took off that night. He was afraid to risk waiting, with a rid out that could pull the ship from under him. And it wasn't until he was in space that he discovered his passengers, Stina and Bat.
Fuck yes, which stowaway?
Which cat stowaway? We'll never know what happened to them. I'm betting that Stina made no explanation at all. She wouldn't. She's just there. You're just like, if Stina shows up on your ship with her cat Bat, you just, you don't ask questions.
There's nothing you can do.
It was the first time she had decided to cash in on her own tip, and she was there. That was all. Maybe that point weighed with Cliff. Maybe he just didn't care. Anyway, the three were together when they sighted the Empress riding, her dead lights gleaming, a ghost ship in night space. Hey! Yep. She must have been an eerie sight because her lights were on too, in addition to the red warnings at her nose. She seemed alive. A Flying Dutchman of space. Wow, we really had we knew where this was going. Cliff worked his ship skillfully alongside and had no trouble in snapping magnetic lines to her lock. Some minutes later, the three of them passed into her.
Wow, 3 at once.
Yeah, damn. There was still air in her cabins and corridors. Air that bore a faint, corrupt taint. Uh-oh. That's not a pleasant smell. Air that bore a faint, corrupt taint, which set Bat to sniffing greedily. And it's cat, so he likes to smell butts.
Yep.
Again, the innuendo in this story is the double entendre of this story is amazing. Corrupt taint that set Bat. I just want to say corrupt taint as many times as possible. The air that bore a faint, corrupt taint, which set Bat to sniffing greedily and could be picked up even by the less sensitive human nostrils.
Man, when even human nostrils can smell your corrupt taint, it is time for a shower,
yep.
my dude.
It's she needs a good car wash. This ship. Cliff or a good douche. I don't know. I don't know where we are. Some Lumi, that deodorant, Cliff headed straight for the control cabin, but Stina and Bat went prowling. Closed doors were a challenge to both of them, and Stina opened each as she passed, taking a quick look at what lay within. The fifth door opened on a room which no woman could leave without further investigation. What
the fuck does that mean?
What's in there?
Pretty dresses.
I don't think Stina gives a fuck about that. I want to know what's in there.
A bear.
Rawr, cuddle bear. I don't know who had been housed there when the Empress left port on her last lengthy cruise. Anyone really curious can check back on the photo reg cards. But there was a lavish display of silks trailing out of 2 travel kits on the floor, a dressing table crowned with crystal and jeweled containers, along with other lures for the female, which drew Stina in.
I told you it was pretty dresses.
It is pretty dresses. It's pretty jewelry. Yeah. She was standing in front of the dressing table when she glanced into the mirror, glanced into it, and froze. Over her right shoulder, she could see the spider silk cover on the bed. Right in the middle of that sheer gossamer expanse was a sparkling heap of gems, the dumped contents of some jewel case. Bat had jumped to the foot of the bed and flattened out as cats will, watching those gems, watching them, and something else. Uh-oh. Cats can sense ghosts. Yeah! Stina put out her hand blindly and caught up the nearest bottle. As she unstoppered it, she watched the mirrored bed. A gemmed bracelet rose from the pile, rose in the air, and tinkled its siren song. It was as if an idle hand played. Bat spat almost noiselessly, but he did not retreat. Bat had not decided his course. So now you got the cat hissing at a floating bracelet.
I mean, I would probably hiss at a floating bracelet. That's fucked up.
Yeah, there's a ghost. She got a ghost. There's a ghost on the ship. She put down the bottle. Then she did something which perhaps few of the men she had listened to through the years could have done. She moved without hurry or sign of disturbance on a tour about the room. She just chooses to ignore it. She's like, nah, fine. And although she approached the bed, she did not touch the jewels. She could not force herself to that. It took her 5 minutes to play out her innocence and unconcern. Then it was Bat who decided the issue. He leaped from the bed and escorted something to the door, remaining a careful distance between. Then he mewed loudly twice. Stina followed him and opened the door wider. Bat went straight down the corridor, as intent as a hound on the warmest of scents. Stina strolled behind him, holding her pace to the unhurried gait of an explorer. What sped before them both was invisible to her, but Bat was never baffled by it. They must have gone into the control cabin almost on the heels of the unseen, if the unseen had heels. We don't know what their footwear is.
Please, all those jewels, that bracelet, those silks, the unseen was wearing heels.
She's wearing some Christian Louboutins, like, look at my fancy feet. They hurt like fuck, but they look good. If the unseen had heels, which there was good reason to doubt, for Bat crouched just within the doorway and refused to move on. Stina looked down the length of the instrument panels and officers' station seats to where Cliff Moran worked. On the heavy carpet, her boots made no sound, and he did not glance up, but sat humming through set teeth as he tested the tardy and reluctant responses to buttons which had not been pushed in years. That's what she said. Again, double entendre.
Yep.
To human eyes, they were alone in the cabin, but Bat still followed a moving something with his gaze, and it was something which he had at last made up his mind to distrust and dislike. For now, he took a step or two forward and spat. His loathing made plain by every raised hair along his spine. and in the same moment, Stina saw a flicker of vague outline against Cliff's hunched shoulders, as if the invisible one had crossed the space between them. But why had it been revealed against Cliff and not against the back of one of the seats or against the panels, the walls of the corridor, or the cover of the bed where it had reclined and played with its lute? What could Bat see? The storehouse memory that had served Stina so well through the years clicked open a half-forgotten door. With one swift motion, she tore loose her space awl and flung the baggy garment across the back of the nearest seat. She's getting naked?
She's naked now?
She just stripped? All right.
Sweet. It's that kind of party.
Yeah. Woo-woo! Stina ready to go.
She saw the way Cliff was pushing those buttons.
Yeah, she's like, okay, I'm ready to exacerbate. Bat was snarling now, emitting the throaty rising cry that was his hunting song. But he was edging back towards Stina's feet, shrinking from something that he could not fight, but which he faced defiantly. If he could draw it after him, past that dangling space saw, he had to. It was their only chance. What the? Cliff had come out of his seat and was staring at them. What he saw must have been weird enough. Stina, bare-armed and shouldered, her tits just out. I think it's just her jacket, her coat. But yeah, so now she's looks like a total badass. She's got a wife beater, we don't call them that anymore, a white tank top and cargo space pants.
She's all, what's her name from Alien?
Or Tomb Raider,
Lara Croft.
Very Lara Croft, or Sigourney Weaver in Alien, yeah.
Yeah. Ripley.
Yeah. Stina, bare-armed and shouldered, her usually swiftly netted hair falling wildly down her back, Stina watched empty space with narrowed eyes and set mouth, calculating a single wild chance. Bat crouched on his belly, retreating from thin air step by step and wailing like a demon. "Toss me your blaster," Stina gave the order calmly, as if they still sat at their table at the Rigel Royal. And as quietly, Cliff obeyed. She caught the small weapon out of the air with a steady hand, caught and leveled it. "Stay just where you are," she warned. "Back, Bat. Bring it back." With a last throat-splitting screech of rage and hate, Bat twisted to safety between her boots. She pressed with thumb and forefinger, firing at the spacealls. The material turned into powdery flakes of ash, except for certain bits which still flapped from the scorched seat, as if something had protected them from the force of the blast. Bat sprang straight up in the air with a scream that tore their ears. "What?" began Cliff again. Stina made a warning motion with her left hand. "Wait!" She was still tense, still watching Bat. The cat dashed madly around the cabin twice, running crazily with white-ringed eyes and flecks of foam on his muzzle. Then he stopped abruptly in the doorway, stopped and looked back over his shoulder for a long, silent moment. He sniffed delicately. Stina and Cliff could smell it too now. A thick, oily stench, which was not the usual odor left by an exploding blaster shell. This is oil ghost. Gas ghost. Gas ghost. Bat came back, treading daintily across the carpet, almost on the tips of his paws. He raised his head as he pressed Stina, and then he went confidently beyond to sniff and spat twice at the unburned strips of the spaceall. Having thus paid his respects to the late enemy, he sat down calmly and set to washing his fur with deliberation. Stina sighed once and dropped into the navigator's seat. "Maybe now you'll tell me what the hell's happened?" Cliff exploded as he took the blaster out of her hand. "Gray," she said dazedly. "It must have been gray. or I couldn't have seen it like that. I'm colorblind, you see. I can only see shades of gray. My whole world is gray. Like Bat's. His world is gray, too. All gray. But he's been compensated, for he can see above and below our range of color vibrations, and apparently, so can I. Her voice quavered, and she raised her chin with a new air Cliff had never seen before, a sort of proud acceptance. She pushed back her wandering hair, but she made no move to imprison it under the heavy net again. That is why I saw the thing when it crossed between us. Against your space saw, it was another shade of gray, an outline. So I put out mine and waited for it to show against that. It was our only chance, Cliff. It was curious at first, I think, and it knew we couldn't see it, which is why it waited to attack. But when Bat's action gave it away, it moved. So I waited to see that flicker against the space saw, and then I let him have it. It's really very simple. Cliff laughed a bit shakily. But what was this gray thing? I don't get it. I think it is what made the Empress a derelict. Something out of space, maybe? Or from another world somewhere. This is very Doctor Who now.
Yep.
Oh, this is cool. Something out of space, maybe, or from another world somewhere. She waved her hands. It's invisible because it's a color beyond our range of sight. It must have stayed in here all these years, and it kills. Must, when its curiosity is satisfied. Swiftly, she described the scene in the cabin and the strange behavior of the gem pile which had betrayed the creature to her. Cliff did not return his blaster to its holder. Any more of them on board, do you think? He didn't look pleased at the prospect. Stina turned to Bat. He was paying particular attention to the space between two front toes in the process of a complete bath. Oh, it's like he's licking his beans. I don't think so, but Bat will tell us if there are. He can see them clearly, I believe. But there weren't any more, and 2 weeks later, Cliff, Stina, and Bat brought the Empress into the lunar quarantine station. And that is the end of Stina's story because, as we have been told, happy marriages need no chronicles. Whoa!
Hell yeah.
Did Stina get it with Cliff?
Yeah, buddy.
Bitch, she sat down, this witch, she went over there with her cat, sat down at this guy's table and was like, I got an adventure for you. And that adventure gonna last a lifetime, baby. She just did it. She did the, walked up to a guy at a bar and was like, I'm gonna marry you, bitch.
She saw Cliff walk in and she leaned out to Bat and she was like, do you see that guy over there? And Bat was like, meow. She was like, no, really, do you see that guy over there? I can't. I don't see that color. I'm colorblind.
Yeah. And then Bat goes, meow. And then she goes, I'm gonna go get us a daddy. Okay. I love this.
Happy marriages need no chronicles.
And Stina had found someone who knew of her gray world and did not find it too hard to share with her. Someone besides Bat. It turned out to be a real love match. The last time I saw her, she was wrapped in a flame-red cloak from the looms of Rigel and wore a fortune in Jovan rubies blazing on her wrists. Cliff was flipping a 3-figure credit bill to a waiter, and Bat had a row of Vernal juice glasses set up before him. Just a little family party out on the town. The end.
I love that one.
That story's so fun. That was great. That was basically like a Guardians of the Galaxy side story.
Yeah.
You got this weird gray lady and her cat. No one understands, but she's can see the future and just reads everybody. And then you've got this guy who's running from the law because he's, behind on his debts, and they get together and they take over the fucking pleasure ship, and now they're the richest people in the galaxy.
It's I like that. It's a Doctor Who side story, and it's Captain Jack Harkness is Cliff.
Yeah, and like somebody like River Song, but not River Song. Like somebody,
she's a new character into the universe,
she's a new
but
character.
Cliff is Captain Jack.
Yeah, and someone finally landed Captain Jack, like just like bam. Of course, it's on the gay pleasure ship.
Yeah,
that's all Captain Jack wants is the queer pleasure ship. That's all he ever wanted.
All right, I like that.
That was delightful in every way.
So for all it had the trappings of the regular like pulp
sexist,
schlock. Well, not even saying that. For all it had the trappings of the regular pulp schlock, which I mean like we're making up words, we're turning things into the space bar, we're coming up with new terms for this and that. There's a little bit of dodgy science in there. I will say this was actually really well written for schlocky pulp sci-fi.
Yeah, because a lot of the trappings of schlocky pulp sci-fi is it's a little sexist. It's a little like that was in there, but it was very self-aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the double entendre was put in there absolutely on purpose.
Yeah.
And it was like, but it the way only a woman can, y'all. Only a woman disguised as a man can. It
was I'm reclaiming that word.
I'm reclaiming this genre.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was like, oh, you guys think you're the only people that can write this shit? Hold my beer. Hold my Vernal juice. Hold my Vernal juice. Which in my mind is bourbon.
Hold my Vernal juice. What are the last words of a space redneck? Hey, bub, hold my Vernal juice.
And then Alice comes in, or I'm sorry, Andrew North comes in and is like, bang, you did. I win.
Hey, listener, what did you think of that one? Did you enjoy it? I sure the hell did. Go ahead and write in. Let us know what your thoughts were. Most importantly, let us know what your thoughts were about 3 minutes from now when it turns 8 o'clock and we all focus our attention to Times Square.
So we got to wrap this episode
so
quick
we're gonna
so
wrap
we
this
can
up
give
quick.
it. But
when you write into 5050artsproduction@gmail.com or any of our social media looking for Campfire Classics and you do that, you tell us what you thought about what your thoughts on the story were. Go ahead and use this week's secret passcode, which is, of course, Corrupt Taint.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, I think that's everything I've got.
Yeah, that's everything I got. I kind of want to say my favorite word again, but I think we've had enough meows in this one because it's a meow, 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 meow. All cats are gray.
Great. So this has been a fun story. I love it when we get just a silly kind of like adventure
was so
like
great.
that. Not a lot to talk about. I hope you enjoyed that one.
I loved it.
And until next week, this has been Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
We just read a really fun story all about pirates. We just read a really fun one that involved jizz. We just really read a fun one all about cats. And then we boarded the pleasure ship and went meow, meow, meow to that.